Have you ever wondered how a forgotten garden could transform not just a landscape, but entire lives? Today, we're diving deep into Frances Hodgson Burnett's timeless masterpiece, The Secret Garden, a novel that has captivated readers for over a century with its profound message about the power of nature, friendship, and personal transformation. This isn't just another children's story, it's a psychological journey that reveals how healing happens when we dare to nurture what's been neglected. Published in 1911, The Secret Garden emerged during a time when Victorian society was grappling with rigid social structures and the emerging understanding of child psychology. Burnett, who had already achieved success with Little Lord Fauntleroy, crafted this novel as her most enduring work, one that would influence generations of readers and writers alike. Set against the backdrop of Yorkshire's wild moors, this story transcends its era to speak to universal human experiences of loss, growth, and redemption. What makes this book particularly fascinating is how Burnett weaves together themes of physical and emotional healing, the restorative power of nature, and the importance of human connection. The story follows Mary Lennox, a spoiled and lonely child who discovers a hidden garden that becomes the catalyst for extraordinary transformation, not just for herself, but for everyone around her. Through Mary's journey, we witness how neglect can damage the human spirit, and more importantly, how attention, care, and love can restore it. The novel's enduring appeal lies in its ability to show us that healing is always possible, that growth can happen at any stage of life, and that sometimes the most profound changes begin with the smallest acts of care. This story reminds us that, like gardens, people need the right conditions to flourish, and that creating those conditions is often within our power. The Secret Garden tells the story of Mary Lennox, a disagreeable 10-year-old girl who has lived a privileged but emotionally barren life in colonial India. When a cholera epidemic kills her parents and their household staff, Mary is sent to live with her reclusive uncle, Lord Archibald Craven, at his estate called Misselthwaite Manor in Yorkshire, England. The manor is a vast, gloomy place with hundreds of rooms, and Mary feels more isolated than ever in this strange new environment. Upon arriving at Misselthwaite, Mary learns about a mysterious garden that has been locked and abandoned for 10 years, ever since her uncle's beloved wife died in an accident there. Intrigued by this forbidden space, Mary becomes determined to find it. With the help of a friendly robin, she discovers the hidden key and the door concealed behind thick ivy. When she finally enters the secret garden, she finds it overgrown and seemingly dead, but she senses that underneath the tangle of weeds and vines, life is waiting to emerge. Mary's discovery of the garden coincides with her growing friendship with Dickon Sowerby, a local boy who has an almost magical ability to communicate with animals and understand the natural world. Together, they begin the careful work of bringing the garden back to life. As they tend to the plants, removing weeds and nurturing new growth, Mary herself begins to transform from a sour, demanding child into someone capable of joy and friendship. The story takes another turn when Mary discovers that her uncle's son, Colin, has been hidden away in the manor. Colin is convinced he's dying and destined to become a hunchback like his father. He's been kept in isolation, surrounded by servants who cater to his every whim and reinforce his belief in his own fragility. Mary's forthright nature challenges Colin's self-pity, and eventually she reveals the secret garden to him. As Colin begins to spend time in the garden with Mary and Dickon, he discovers that he's not actually ill or disabled, but has been weakened by isolation and negative thinking. The garden becomes a place of healing for all three children, teaching them about resilience, growth, and the power of positive thinking. Now let's explore the main events that drive this transformative story forward, revealing how each pivotal moment contributes to the overall theme of renewal and growth. The story begins with a catastrophic event that completely upends Mary's world. Living in India as the daughter of a British colonial official, Mary has been raised by servants who indulge her every whim while her parents remain emotionally distant. When cholera sweeps through their compound, killing everyone except Mary, she's discovered alone and forgotten in the house. This traumatic beginning establishes Mary's fundamental problem. She's been physically cared for but emotionally neglected, leaving her unable to connect with others or find joy in life. Her transportation to England represents not just a geographical shift, but the beginning of her psychological journey toward healing. Mary's arrival at Misselthwaite Manor introduces her to a world that mirrors her own emotional state. The manor is vast but cold, filled with hundreds of rooms but lacking warmth or human connection. Her uncle, Lord Craven, is consumed by grief over his wife's death and travels constantly to avoid confronting his pain. This environment of neglect and isolation initially reinforces Mary's negative patterns, but it also provides the space she needs to begin her transformation. The manor's very emptiness becomes a canvas for new possibilities. The mystery of the secret garden captures Mary's imagination in a way nothing has before. Through conversations with Martha, her straightforward Yorkshire maid, Mary learns that the garden has been locked away for 10 years, ever since Lady Craven's tragic death there. This forbidden space becomes an obsession for Mary, giving her a sense of purpose and curiosity that she's never experienced. The garden represents everything that's been lost and forgotten, much like Mary herself, making her quest to find it deeply symbolic of her own search for meaning and connection. Mary's friendship with Dickon Sowerby marks a crucial turning point in her development. Dickon, Martha's younger brother, possesses qualities that Mary has never encountered. He's kind, patient, and has an intuitive understanding of living things. When Mary finally shares the secret of the garden with him, their partnership in restoring it becomes a metaphor for healthy relationship building. Dickon teaches Mary to see beyond surface appearances, to understand that what looks dead might simply be dormant, waiting for the right conditions to flourish again. The discovery of Colin Craven hidden within the manor adds another layer to the story's exploration of neglect and healing. Colin has been kept in isolation, convinced by years of overprotective care that he's dying and destined to become a hunchback. His hypochondria and tyrannical behaviour represent the extreme endpoint of what happens when children are simultaneously overindulged and emotionally abandoned. Mary's introduction of Colin to the garden becomes the catalyst for his transformation, showing how shared purpose and natural beauty can overcome even deeply entrenched patterns of self-pity and fear. The gradual restoration of the garden parallels the healing of all three children. As they work together to clear away dead growth and nurture new life, they develop qualities they've never possessed before. Mary learns patience and care. Colin discovers his own physical strength and capability, and even Dickon grows in his understanding of friendship and loyalty. The garden becomes a safe space where they can express their authentic selves without judgment or expectation. The climactic moment arrives when Colin's father returns home unexpectedly and finds his son not only alive and healthy, but thriving in the very garden where his wife died. This reunion represents the completion of the healing cycle, as Lord Craven finally confronts his grief and recognises that life and beauty can grow from even the most painful losses. The garden, that was once a symbol of death and endings, becomes a symbol of new beginnings and hope. The transformation of Colin's relationship with his father demonstrates how healing ripples outward from individuals to families and communities. By the story's end, the secret garden is no longer truly secret, but has become a place of openness and sharing. This shift from secrecy to transparency reflects the characters' journeys from isolation to connection, from fear to courage, and from despair to hope. The lessons embedded in The Secret Garden offer profound insights for readers of all ages about personal growth, resilience, and the transformative power of positive action. The power of environment in shaping human development emerges as one of the story's most crucial teachings. Mary's transformation from a disagreeable, lonely child to a caring, engaged young person demonstrates how dramatically surroundings can influence our emotional and psychological well-being. The contrast between the sterile, isolated environment of her early life in India and the natural, nurturing space of the garden shows us that healing often requires a change of environment. This principle applies beyond childhood, suggesting that adults too can benefit from examining whether their current surroundings support or hinder their growth. The importance of meaningful work and purpose resonates throughout the narrative. Mary's aimless existence transforms when she discovers the garden project, giving her something worthwhile to invest her energy in. The physical labour of gardening, combined with the emotional investment in nurturing growth, provides Mary with a sense of accomplishment and identity she's never experienced. This teaches us that purposeful activity, especially when it involves caring for something or someone else, can be profoundly healing and transformative. The story demonstrates how negative thought patterns can become self-fulfilling prophecies, while positive thinking can create new possibilities. Colin's conviction that he's dying and disabled keeps him weak and bedridden, while his shift toward believing in his own strength and capability enables him to walk and thrive. This isn't merely wishful thinking, but rather shows how our mental frameworks directly influence our physical and emotional reality. The novel suggests that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can choose how we think about and respond to our circumstances. The healing power of friendship and human connection appears as a central theme throughout the story. Mary's relationships with Martha, Dickon and Colin provide her with the emotional nourishment she's never received. These friendships teach her empathy, cooperation, and the joy of shared experience. The story shows us that healing rarely happens in isolation, but rather through meaningful connections with others who can offer different perspectives, support, and encouragement. The restorative power of nature emerges as more than just a backdrop to the story, but as an active participant in the healing process. The garden provides the children with fresh air, physical activity, and connection to natural cycles of growth and renewal. Burnett suggests that modern life often disconnects us from these natural rhythms to our detriment, and that deliberately reconnecting with nature can restore our physical and emotional well-being. The importance of patience and gradual progress appears throughout the gardening metaphors. Just as plants cannot be forced to grow faster than their natural pace, human healing and growth require time and consistent nurturing. The children learn that transformation happens gradually through daily acts of care and attention rather than dramatic overnight changes. This teaches us to be patient with ourselves and others during periods of growth and change. The story explores how trauma and neglect can be overcome through love and consistent care. All three children carry emotional wounds from their past experiences, but they discover that these wounds need not define their future. Through their relationships with each other and their shared work in the garden, they learn that it's possible to heal from past hurts and create new, healthier patterns of living. The interconnectedness of all living things emerges as a subtle but powerful theme. The children's healing is connected to the garden's restoration, which is connected to the broader cycles of seasons and natural growth. This teaches us that our individual well-being is connected to the health of our relationships, our communities, and our environment. Personal transformation can have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves. The courage required to face truth and change demonstrates how growth often requires us to confront uncomfortable realities about ourselves and our lives. Mary must acknowledge her selfishness and loneliness. Colin must face his fears about his health, and Lord Craven must confront his grief. The story shows us that while this process can be painful, it's essential for genuine healing and transformation. The power of optimism and hope to create positive change weaves through every aspect of the story. The children's growing belief that the garden can be restored, that Colin can be healthy, and that their lives can be better becomes the foundation for making these hopes reality. This teaches us that hope is not merely wishful thinking, but an active force that can motivate us to take the steps necessary to create positive change in our lives. The Secret Garden stands as a testament to the extraordinary power of renewal and transformation that lies within every human heart. Through Mary's journey from a bitter, isolated child to a caring, connected young person, Burnett shows us that no matter how damaged or neglected we might feel, the potential for growth and healing always exists within us. The garden itself becomes a powerful metaphor for the human spirit, demonstrating that even what appears completely dead can be brought back to life with patience, care, and unwavering dedication. This timeless story continues to resonate with readers more than a century after its publication because it addresses fundamental human needs that transcend cultural and temporal boundaries. We all need connection, purpose, and the opportunity to nurture growth in ourselves and others. The novel reminds us that healing is not a destination, but a process, one that requires both solitude for reflection and community for support. It teaches us that the most profound changes often begin with the smallest acts of attention and care. Perhaps most importantly, The Secret Garden offers hope to anyone who has ever felt forgotten, neglected, or beyond redemption. It shows us that transformation is always possible, that the right conditions can help anyone flourish, and that sometimes the most broken places in our lives can become the source of our greatest strength and beauty. The Secret Garden exists not just in Yorkshire, but within each of us, waiting to be discovered, tended, and brought back to life. In a world that often feels harsh and disconnected, this story reminds us of the healing power of nature, friendship, and the courage to believe in new beginnings.